So I just finished FF7 Rebirth in a record-breaking 40 hours, and I'm a bit confused about the ending, specifically the status of Aerith. So I placed my tinfoil hat on my beautiful head and started brainstorming some ideas. And I came up with a theory. And not just any theory, not a game theory, but a conspiracy theory. Firstly, when Sephiroth and Cloud are in the boundaries between worlds, Sephiroth says, the planet encompasses a multitude of worlds, ever unfolding. So the entire world consists of multiple worlds, or planes of existence, and there are constantly new ones being created when the boundaries of fate are breached. And every life born in any of these worlds are bound to the planet. And when they pass, they are absorbed back into the life stream. This means that the planet is like a multiversal matrix, where every being is connected to the system, powers the system, and when they die, they are fed back into the system. But this system is vulnerable to outside forces, aliens, manipulating the system. Now, outside of OG FF7, in Dirge of Cerberus, there is an Omega weapon which is used to destroy all life on the planet, absorb the energy, and move that energy to a different, I assume barren, planet to start life all over again. So the life stream is some kind of alien parasite that attaches to a planet and farms life to help fuel its existence. And if that planet is no longer viable, it moves to a new planet. And this life stream is capable of creating new worlds or save files for the planet when fate is breached. Now let's talk about fate. And we need to talk about fate because fate can mean a lot of different things depending on the game. So, what does fate mean in FF7? Well, there are some options. It could be determinism, where everything is predetermined or like a cycle in the Matrix, but I think it is something completely different. You see, we have these magical robed creatures called arbiters of fate that physically push or block people towards their fate. There are black versions that seem to push people towards a situation resulting in giving the black materia to Sephiroth, so I assume those are evil. But we also have the white versions that surround and protect Aerith in the end. So I think these are merely functions or powers used by people who have tapped into the life stream, namely Aerith and Sephiroth. So essentially it is Neo and Smith. Aerith because she is Cetra with the white materia, and Sephiroth because he fell into the lifestream while being part Genova, which meant he wouldn't be absorbed and instead could start using the powers of the lifestream. And this makes sense to me since the Black Whispers seem to only bother us. Nobody else knows about them, and I find that very strange if this fate thing was a naturally occurring common phenomenon since ancient times. Now, when it comes to the multiple worlds, what I think happens is when these whispers cannot push someone away from a certain path, there is a mechanism to split the world in two, where one is leading towards the correct path and one isn't, to ensure at least one world is leading down the correct path. This is quite similar to when you ask for your Subway sandwich to have one side be chicken and another side be meatballs, since there is a possibility the meatball or chicken is rotten. Now, Sephiroth wants to unify all the worlds, and he avoids using this splitting ability, which probably also splits the Mako up as well, assuming energy cannot be created from nothing. And if Sephiroth, or whoever is controlling Sephiroth, could just constantly split the worlds until the correct path is taken, then he wouldn't bother trying to convince Cloud to join his side. It would just be a waste of time because he can just find the world where this is the case. So overall, in this multiverse or multi-world, whatever you want to call it, we have the life stream that exists outside of it and controls all life born from the life stream. Now, there are two primary worlds we care about. The one with Zack alive and Cloud in the wheelchair, and the other one is the player's world. I'll refer to these as Zack's world and player's world just to make things simple. When we start the final chapter, in what is likely Zack's world, we get a scene with Cloud and Aerith going on a date, waiting for their world to end. And there is this weird part where Cloud asks Aerith why she's acting so weird, and this isn't you. I find that very interesting. And then Aerith gives Cloud her white materia, tells him to save the world, and pushes him into a portal to transport him to another world. So Zack's world Aerith at this point is aware of the multiverse. Keep that in mind. After that, Sephiroth enters the scene, and I assume kills Aerith, and then jumps into the portal himself, and tries to convince Cloud to join his side, possibly using his Sharingan to inflict a Genjutsu on Cloud, so he can see multiple worlds, because presentation is very important for negotiation. After that, Zack's world Cloud wakes up in the forest. We know it is Zack World's Cloud, since Cloud has the white materia in his pocket. Aerith meets Cloud here and says she's trying to find the real Cloud, and at the same time, she's using the powers of Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap to teleport around. Aerith then takes the white materia, absorbs it, and seemingly vanishes. We then jump to an unknown Cloud holding up Aerith. Cloud pulls her up. Cloud is being carried by Barrett unconscious, and then we reach the forest before the ancient city. Now that sounds great, but there's 3 problems with this story. First, in the previous chapter, Player World Cloud and Aerith fell from the ancient temple instead of Cloud pulling her up. So is this Player World Cloud? It's very unlikely. And then Cloud says he went to another world.
Yeah, got sent to another world. Apparently, there's at least a few more than one.
Is that right?
So if this was Player World Cloud who didn't go to another world and said that, that doesn't make any sense, right? And then Yuffie mentioned Sephiroth stole the black materia, and we previously saw Player World Cloud voluntarily give the black materia to Sephiroth. So which Cloud is this Cloud? I think it could be a different Cloud, okay? Let's go back to the scene where Zack Cloud and Aerith go on a date. Zack's World Cloud very recently was in a coma along with Aerith, so them being perfectly healthy is very strange to me. Back in the player world, when Aerith and Cloud falls from the ancient temple, logically, they shouldn't survive the fall. But Aerith, the wielder of the white materia, being closer to Cetra City, gains the portal powers similar to Sephiroth by tapping into the lifestream. Then, this player world Cloud and Aerith then merge with the Zack world counterparts. Why do I think they merged instead of having separate people? Well, that's because during the date there was this theme where there is only one per person.
But remember, it's one per person.
Oh, but only one per person.
Sorry, folks. I've only got one shot left.
And Sephiroth also talks about union all the time after entering the life stream. So each world, I think, is only one per person. And if this is player world Cloud, this would explain how Sephiroth was able to follow Aerith and Cloud into Zack's world, and explains why Aerith seemed different to Cloud, and how Aerith gained the ability to create portals to other worlds. But then if that is the case, Aerith had some type of multiversal plan to give Cloud the white materia. So who told Aerith about this plan? Well, after gaining the multiversal powers, merged Aerith received the communication through the life stream by another user of the white materia. And who was the other stand user of the white materia? I will call her Aerith Prime, the one with strong enough multiversal powers to use the White Arbiters of Fate. And after Cloud is pushed into the portal and wakes up in a forest, I don't think this is the forest we are thinking of. It is significantly more magical looking than the real forest. I think this is where Aerith Prime exists between the boundary of worlds, and she is collecting the powers of multiple white materia, just like I think Sephiroth wants to obtain multiple dupes of the black materia to form the Great Vanta black materia. She then sends Cloud off into a different world, which we will call the real world, where Cloud actually manages to pull Aerith up. Yes, I believe the world where we end the game in is a completely different world that we have never seen. It's either that or Aerith Prime has time travel powers. Now, once we reach the altar where Aerith is praying, it seems like Cloud is able to block Sephiroth's attack. But then seconds later, Aerith ends up dead. I believe the world splits at this point. We have a world where Cloud blocks the attack, and a world where Sephiroth hits. Now Sephiroth, being the unifier, is able to unify worlds with his Bankai, Release Command Union. So he combines the two, leaving only the world where he kills Aerith. And that appears to be the case because Sephiroth laughs afterwards. We then fight, and then during the final battle, Zack is wandering in a white world with time frozen, sees Cloud, touches him, and then appears in his world. The interesting thing here is that Cloud is both in this boundary world and in the real world fighting off Sephiroth. He physically exists in both. So I believe Cloud is now a 4-dimensional being. So based on that, we know that boundary worlds or pocket dimensions can be right next to another world, similar to when Bach invades the Soul Society from a shadow dimension. So what if Aerith, who had the attack deflected, moved into one of these shadow dimensions, either due to her own powers, or due to Cloud's newly obtained Bankai? If she was sent to the pocket dimension, like how Sephiroth sent Zack to a pocket dimension,
No, not you.
then that would explain how from Cloud's perspective, Aerith is alive, but from everyone else's perspective, she is dead. Now this assumes Cloud is capable of seeing things in this pocket dimension, which would be fine if he was a 4-dimensional being. However, what about the situation where there are two worlds, and Cloud is a 4-dimensional being encompassing both? Well, if there were at least two worlds, Cloud can see both, so logically, there would be some situations where he will see a different party that sees the alive Aerith, but the party we get never acknowledges her existence. So Aerith must be in a state that only Cloud can see, and that includes Sephiroth not being able to see her either. So a shadow dimension, I think, would be the best bet. Now, near the end of the final battle, an Aerith shows up like a summon and helps Cloud defeat Sephiroth, who says, "I underestimated you," which probably means he never anticipated Aerith being alive in some manner. Now, I believe this is actually Prime Aerith, who shows up when they appear to be in what looks like some sort of boundary between worlds. Because after they finish the fight, Aerith, that was sent to a shadow dimension, is still sleeping on the floor, so she can't be the Aerith that fought with Cloud. This Aerith was put in a separate dimension for later use for Cloud, and is only visible, only interactable with Cloud due to his Bankai. And we even see this white pocket dimension transition to the real world here. At first, Cloud is not able to see his other party members while looking at the pocket dimension, as over here he only sees Aerith when Aerith is supposedly surrounded by her party members. But Cloud, being the crazy schizophrenic 4-dimensional being he is, eventually he adjusts his vision and then sees everybody at the same time. Now in the final scene, Aerith wanders around with everybody unaware of her presence, and Cloud asks Aerith if she'll be okay getting back, and Aerith says it is like a second home. Now what are they talking about? Well, her second home could mean the boundary between worlds that she exists in right now, and she could be talking about going to Aerith Prime to merge their powers together. And maybe, in that boundary world where we saw Prime Aerith, instead of teleportation, maybe that really was dirty deeds done dirt cheap, and there are multiple copies of Aeriths. Maybe. I don't know. But really the final question here is, do I believe anything I just said? No, I don't.